This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge.
Hi, friends. Welcome to this week's pod. This is show for the week of April 7th, 2025. That's what's going on in our Disney World, Phil. We've got a little bit of airport luggage transfer news, which is a very sterile way of describing Magical Express is kind of back just a little bit.
Kind of, sort of, maybe.
Some hotels and some airlines, type of thing. We'll get into the details later. And then, of course, our DBC engagement for last week. This is a subject that we skipped and we saved to discuss this week. And our community came out and really gave out their opinions, which is really great. Appreciate everybody's participation. And, of course, remember, join our Discord server and join the conversation every single week with our engagement questions. But I think we're just going to go right. Oh, actually, you've got some new members here, Phil. Who joined us on YouTube this week?
Yeah, a couple new joiners on YouTube. Thanks for that. We have Thomas Carlson, Blaine Robinson, and Bill Daly. And if any of you are not already on Discord, please join Discord.
Join the conversation. Absolutely. All right. So, Phil, before we get into some quick hits and news bits and stuff like that, I guess we talked about, do we want to announce this on the show or do we not want to announce this on the show? Does it really make a difference? Because it's not that much of a big deal. So that being said, Phil and I are going to Disney World for one day in exactly a month from now.
Yeah.
May 6th.
Yep.
So most credit to our friend Matt from Diz Happenings. He said he booked a trip to go down he's flying down at 6 a.m. and flying back at 10 o'clock at night on the same day just to say goodbye to Muppets. And we've been kind of talking about doing a trip here and there. And we're like, that's a great idea. I want to go too. And then we both asked Phil, let's go. He's like, okay, I think we can do this. And then it just happened. Phil and I are not masochists, so we will be spending the night there and flying back the next day in the morning. But it's pretty simple. I had points for tickets, so I covered the tickets. Phil covered the hotel. Everything kind of matched up, and then we just had to spend $1,000 just to get in Hollywood Studios.
Then we had to book the ticket for the park, which was more than everything else put together.
Yeah, exactly. So the ticket for Hollywood Studios that day was $168, $70, something like that.
Yeah, I think it was $169. Yeah,
and the hotel was $150. And our plane tickets, if we were to fly without the points I used, I think the tickets were like $120. And if we wanted to fly out somewhere else, they could have gotten them for like $90, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So getting into Hollywood Studios is the most expensive part of the day.
Actually, the new discounts actually applied to the room. So the room was only $124, which
look at that.
So we're staying at an All-Stars. We're staying on property. I was looking off property. The best I could find was like $91 for a Marriott or something like that. So to save an Uber cost, we're staying at the All-Stars.
Yeah. So Disney Transportation, save $50 for the Uber there and back. So saves quite a bit. We're going down to see Muppets. Matt booked a bunch of different restaurants and Ogas and things like that. Phil and I have not done any planning for this other than just book the essentials.
Yep.
I think we're going to get. I'm thinking that we're going to get Lightning Multipass.
I think so. Yeah, because it's just one of us to pay. Yeah.
So we're gonna pretend like we're without families and like, oh, this is what
Disney adults feel like.
Absolutely. So. Maybe we'll probably talk about a trip like a week out or so once we have like what we're doing that day, don't you think? But we're just going to come down, have fun. I don't think we're going to have like a big YouTube vlog thing with it because Phil and I just want to enjoy ourselves as we go down. But then we'll have trip reports and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Maybe we record a podcast when we're down there together because when else are we ever together in the same place to do a show? Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how many beers that we have, and we can set up the equipment.
Set it up in Ogas.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Okay, let's go first. You want to talk about some Epic Universe news, Phil?
Yeah, just real quick. The Epic Universe invited media, so local vloggers and stuff like that. It seemed to be, I don't know if it was short notice or just they weren't allowed to say anything until like the day before. But they were in Friday night. They were looking at the Helios Grand Hotel. And then the last 2 days they've been at Epic Universe itself. And at the same time, they also lifted the ban on photos and video and stuff like that. As we know, during team member previews, they weren't allowed to to share videos and photos and stuff like that during it. So everybody's been saving this up apparently because it's just been bombarding social media and YouTube and everything like that. It's been really kind of hard to avoid spoilers and stuff like that. One thing though I noticed was, unfortunately, Alicia Stella and BioReconstruct didn't get invited. I've been enjoying all their content. I mean, they've been covering this park since like ground broke, but I guess they're not part of like the vlogger community that pushes out, like kind of influences people about things the right way or something like that. I don't know.
Alicia's been there like twice already anyway.
Yeah, as a team. Yeah, she came with a team member, invited her, I think twice. Yeah. Just interesting to see who got invited, who didn't. Some people that are like, they have like Mouse and Disney in their name and they got invited and stuff like that. So it's just interesting to see who got there, who's kind of sharing overall things, who's going like full bore with spoilers and stuff like that. So it's very, very exciting. I mean, a lot of these people have been waiting for a long time to get in there and you can see the emotion coming through. But I did have a few questions. I don't know. Have you been looking at any of the content? Or are you actively trying to avoid it, or what's your thoughts with this?
I'm not actively avoiding it. I've just been off social media like the last couple of days, only because family and baseball games and all this other type of stuff. I did get all the notifications from Scott Gustin, just kind of posting.
Yeah, Scott was one of the people in there too. So yeah,
all this other stuff, and a lot of it was cool content. I mean, I don't get too excited about looking in a Universal park with new stuff. I look at the music sounded great, the waterfalls and the water looked, or the fountains looked awesome. I've seen a lot of this stuff. I don't want to get spoiled for rides, but like I've seen the lands from above and other stuff. So nothing's like crazy, and I kind of want to be like spoil free. And also I just haven't had a chance to kind of really like look at the side of my eyes at it either. So I don't know. I'm not super stoked to be like go all in on it, just like I was with like Star Wars Galaxy's Edge and stuff like that either. So I'm kind of like, if the reports for it were like this is absolutely amazing, which some of them have been, maybe I'll get more excited. But I don't know. I'm kind of like in the middle there. I'm like 70% to the way of being like stoked for this. I guess I don't know why.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I know why. Because in order to see it, it's going to cost me $800 to get in for my family in the summer, and I'm not excited about that whatsoever. So
right, that's
I might not even do it.
Yeah, we do have the day booked already like that, so we're probably a little more excited since we know it's coming and stuff. And I have been actively trying to avoid spoilers, but it's really hard when things are just coming up and
you're inundated with it.
You're inundated with some. I'm scrolling real fast past things, or if like things open up and stuff like that. I did watch a little bit of some of the videos of the hotel because we're staying there, and I kind of wanted to learn a little bit more about that, and that got me more excited about staying there with the views from the room and the bar at the top and stuff like that. But yeah, really been trying to avoid ride queues and things like that, but it's a little hard to avoid some of it. But like you said, we've been looking at images and stuff like that from BioReconstruct for years, so it's not like we have no idea of what the areas are going to look like. But I haven't watched full on videos or anything.
The one thing I'm super excited about for this park is because by all things that I've seen, it looks absolutely gorgeous. It's like being there in the immersive environment with the music, right? The ambiance, whether it's the trees or the water or the lights or whatever it might be. But when you watch it through a video, it just never does it justice, right?
Right.
And then it kind of alters your perception when you're there. You're kind of when I go into the park, I want to be able to like not be like I got to look out for this. I got to look out for this. I just want to be like immerse myself in it and just see where my feet take me at that point.
Yep.
So I think, and I definitely don't want to spoil the rides. So like, do I want to check out what it looks like, or do I want to be like and ruin the vibes for when I go? I don't know. I'm babbling at this point. I'm repeating myself.
The other thing I am trying to get some thoughts and feedback because we only have the one day there, like trying to figure out our plan of like what order do we do things in. And I would say the one thing that's definitely being highlighted is the Dark Moor area, I think is going to look a ton better at night. And so I think that's going to play a role in like, I want to make sure we're allowing time after the sun goes down to spend time there and things. So things like that are kind of coming out that I'm trying to like gauge, but without watching too many details. I am still wondering what the park hours are going to be, because the Universal parks they're not open as late as Disney parks are and stuff like that. And I'm like, I'm going in August. If it's not open till like 9-10 o'clock,
it's going to be daytime the whole time.
Yeah, it's going to be daytime the whole time. So I'm hoping they have some decently long hours for the summer. The only other comment I wanted to make is I have seen, and I know sometimes it's hard to construe things on social media when people are making comments, but I have been seeing a lot of like, oh, this is the Disney's got to be shaking in their boots. They're scared of this, blah, 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 because of the quality of some of these rides. And then obviously people fight back and get defensive of Disney and stuff like that. And then people are like, other people are pointing out like, whoa, look at all these bad sight lines. Imagine if this was Disney, they'd be getting ripped for that, but it's okay because it's, things like that, where it's just, can we avoid like the fighting between, like, it's everybody. It's not like you can only go to one or the other. Like everything's available to everybody if you want to. So it's like, let's just be happy that there's a new park. That doesn't mean you can't praise or criticize, but don't do it like trying to raise one up while you're lowering the other one down. Just kind of look at it.
This park, like, people could talk about the quality of all the Universal parks that are there now, because there is some question about quality and park structure, that type of thing. But Epic Universe is built from the ground up with some of the best in the industry. Like, it's going to be an amazing park. The only thing that I totally agree with the Tribalist, but the only thing that I kind of push back on from your statement is there's a lot of pictures that I've seen of like an open space that just has really nothing there, or these things that people like nitpick to heck about Disney that like they're praising for Universal. And like, I don't like hypocrisy. Like, if you're going to criticize one, criticize the other for the same thing. So I'm open for loving of both and also criticizing of both too, but equally, please. Let's hold both to the same standard, because we should be holding Epic Universe to the highest standard that you hold Disney to, because they put all the money and have all the talent behind it. It should be equivalent expectations. Yeah.
And I've seen some people like, oh, well, I wasn't expecting a Disney park, so of course it's not going to be the same quality. It's like, well, that's not what Universal is putting themselves out there. They're trying to be a full week family vacation. Like, it's, you got to kind of hold it to the same type of standards. But
I believe you're correct on that one. Yes,
absolutely. Next item I want to hit on, and I'll go through these pretty quick, but I've been in the past a little critical of D23 when it feels like all the events they have are either in Orlando or Anaheim. And if you don't live in those areas, you can't go to a lot of those events. But they announced a number of events that are coming up in the near term. 3 of them are in the New York City area, so that's personally beneficial to me. I know not everybody's in New York as well, but at least it's another area. 2 of them involve Broadway. One is where you get to do a tour of the New Amsterdam Theater, and you even get to go on stage and like look out and see props and stuff like that. So that sounded pretty neat. Unfortunately, it's like Thursday and Friday morning, so it's a little hard if you have kids in school and stuff like that. Those are $45 a ticket. They're also doing lunch with the cast of Aladdin on Broadway. These are a little bit more. It's served at Tavern on the Green, and it's got some of the stars from the show. It's like $175 a ticket, but if you're like a big Broadway person, and I mean, Aladdin's a great show, and the cast of that's really good. So if that's a pretty unique opportunity, I think, to have.
Are you the type of person that likes meeting like performers, actors off of like stage or something, like movie stars or anything else? Like
no, I'm really not. I mean, not that I'm against meeting them or something like that, but yeah, a lot of people I know are really into going like to cons and stuff like that and meeting these people and getting photos and stuff. And like, that doesn't really interest me.
To me, they're like talented people, but like they're not going to be my friend. I'm going to have a 5-minute awkward conversation with them as they're talking to 1,000 people. It's just kind of like, whatever. Yeah. But some people love it. So it's,
so I thought that was kind of neat. And then the third one is, and I actually got 2 tickets to this one. It's D23 goes to the World's Fair. So it's going to be at the Queens Museum in Flushing Meadows, New York, where the World's Fair was held. And you're going to see a screening of a movie there and get to talk to people that are part of the historians and keeping of the memorabilia and things like that, and see some of the exhibits and things like that that are kind of kept. And so that's on Saturday, April 26th. Depending on availability of other people in my family, it's either going to be me and my wife or me and one of my kids, or if everybody's busy, I might be asking a friend if they want to go or something like that, because we couldn't quite figure it out. So I just got 2 tickets, but they're only $25 a ticket. It sounded kind of neat. And like I said, I'm trying to take advantage of things being in the area. And then the last one, and this is going to 20 different cities around the country. I think I mentioned in the past that the Goofy movie, the 30th anniversary is this month. The documentary is going to be on Disney Plus, but they're doing a road, D23 on the road with a Goofy movie. So going around to 20 cities around the country, they're going to be showing a Goofy movie on a big screen. So the original movie, but it's going to have different additional elements to it. They called it, of course, because it's Disney, they call them activations. But it's the way it was kind of worded was almost like you're going to be given props to kind of use during it. So if anybody's gone to like a showing of the Rocky Horror Picture Show where like when it's raining, they shoot water guns, or during the wedding scene, people throw rice in the audience and stuff like that. So it sounds like it's going to be things like that you kind of participate with the movie.
That's interesting.
While it goes on. So it's going to be going around the country starting May 3rd, winding up in Orlando on August 28th. For everything other than the Orlando one, tickets go on sale on April 17th. So we're hoping to check that one out when it's in the New York area too.
There you go. Sounds cool.
So that gets us to our main topics. One of them is the airport luggage transfer returns to Walt Disney World, which, like as Jason said, is not the most exciting or fun name. It doesn't quite have the same ring as Disney's Magical Express.
No,
but I guess they wanted to make sure this was not being confused with that full service that was in the past. Obviously, I think most people listening to this recall Disney's Magical Express, where from when you checked your bags at your home airport, that was kind of it. They would then show up in your room once you got back to Disney. And when you landed in Orlando, you would get on a bus and it would take you to your resort and that sort of thing. And then it would work backwards as well to get you home. Although that was often called the Tragical Express. But so they've started the tragic part, I guess, of that, where you can, at certain resorts, currently it's only at the Valley resorts. It started, I think, just at Pop, and now it's at all of the Valley resorts. I did see a report. It looks like it might be expanding to Shades of Green soon as well. And right now it's only with Southwest Airline, but it does give you the opportunity to check your bags at the hotel, and then they will take them to the airport for you, and you don't have to deal with getting them to the airport and checking them in there and that sort of thing. It'll get on your plane, and then you just pick them up when you get to your home airport. You still have to get yourself over to the airport and stuff like that. But I think especially for people that are maybe leaving later in the day, it's kind of a nice feature that you can check your bags. And then if you wanted to go to a theme park or to Disney Springs or something like that, and not have to worry about your luggage. Obviously, this only helps if you're somebody who's checking your luggage. It doesn't take care of carry-ons and things like that. But it's nice that this is coming back. We don't know exactly who's funding it, if it's Disney paying for it or if it's the airline or who. But at the same side, this seemed, people say, is this just the first step to maybe Magical Express coming back? But this, combined with the second news item that we're going to talk about in a little bit, is Disney doing something that isn't directly being charged for. And it feels like perks are maybe kind of coming back a little bit, along with some of the other things we've talked about recently. So what was your reaction when you heard this was coming?
I was surprised and confused. But it seems cool. Maybe it's a service that they have to offer. They're putting in all those bubble articles that we talked about last week. We'll be talking about in our next segment. Phil, I'm going to be cynical about this one. I'm going to join Team Testa and be cynical about Disney on this. The reason why, because Disney loves to survey its guests constantly, and I guarantee you one of those questions are, what do you do the day that you are checking out? Do you go to the park? Do you have something to eat? Blah, blah, blah. So we're trying to find out what the guests do. And if a lot of people aren't doing that because they have to worry about their bags and stuff like that, I think Disney is probably paying for a little bit of this. And I think Southwest is paying a little bit too, because it may push guests to go to fly Southwest versus any other airline, right? So it's beneficial on both sides. If Disney could say, hey, we take care of your bags, you can go to the park and go right to the airport from the Magic Kingdom and not have to worry about bringing bags with you or go eat or whatever. You can just go back to the airport and off you go, right? Granted, you still have like carry-on that you might have to worry about, but like I think Disney wants people to leave or be able to do more things on their departure day than they maybe currently are. And that probably gets them, get the restaurants a little bit more full, maybe do an extra park day, and everything that comes along with it.
So,
excuse me.
Yeah, that makes sense. It kind of goes along too with the free water park perk, right? Something else to do on your arrival day and stuff like that. They want you to have the full experience versus just kind of checking in and being like, well, I guess we'll hang at the pool or the resort or something like that. Now maybe they're a little bit more unencumbered and feel like they can add another day onto their park tickets or something like that for sure. But it's interesting. Like you said, it could also be, on the signs right now, it definitely has Southwest on the sign. So it feels like it's some part of marketing from them as well, which we know they're shifting their whole strategy with now charging for bags and things like that. So maybe this is trying to get some positive press for that. I don't know. So it's interesting though, but it's like you said, it was something that feels like kind of came out of nowhere. And I don't know, if it's the first step to more things, then I'm excited. If it stays as this, it's like, all right, well, we don't normally have check bags anyway. And like, You know, it's only like it has kind of limited applications for a select number of people, but it's better than nothing. And if some people want to take advantage of it and approves their vacation for no extra cost, then I think that's pretty great.
I think it's good no matter what, only because,
Yeah.
like you said, it's free stuff. But there's motivation behind it also. It's just weird that it's one airline and for certain hotels.
Yeah.
I
I'm assuming they're just starting there and it'll
Yes.
expand beyond that. At least to the other hotels. I'm assuming eventually it'll be at all the hotels. They just didn't want to start right away before they got things up to scale.
I guess so.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with if other airlines come on with it as well. But
we'll see. I don't know. To me, it's like it's so surgical and random that it's one. I know probably why it's one airline, because they probably came together and probably thought it was unique, but it just seems strange to me because they have the data on what it takes for it to work. Like, why do you need to take it easy? Like, what it's going to look like, right? You know how many value guests that you have. You know how many people potentially fly Southwest from Southwest's data.
Yeah.
Like, we have this many people. Like, I don't know. It to me, it's like too random for whatever reason. But whatever. It is.
We'll see. But maybe they're just going to throw out a whole bunch of little perks. I mean, it should be in the next couple months at least, if not earlier. 2026 vacation packages will start going on sale, and we'll see what perks are going to be included with that, whether they continue having the water park perk or if they do something else. But like we talked about with that one, not everyone's going to be able to take advantage of that one. Not everyone's going to be taking advantage of this one. But
it's okay.
It's definitely okay. And maybe if they start throwing, here's 10 small kind of surgical perks, but if everybody gets to take advantage of one or two of them, it kind of, you feel like you're getting a little bit more for your money.
Yep.
Speaking of the water park perk, initially it was announced that Blizzard Beach was going to have that celebration for a month to celebrate its 20th, 30th anniversary. I forget which one it was. And then it would close and Typhoon Lagoon would take over. But it sounds like now Disney has announced that both Blizzard Beach and Typhoon Lagoon will be open at the same time, starting on May 21st. They've announced that it'll at least go through September 7th, so all of the summer months. And this is the first time since 2019 that both of the water parks will be open at the same time. So I think it's interesting. We have had some anecdotal evidence that people are saying the water parks seem a little bit more crowded than in the past, that people are taking advantage of the arrival day perk. And obviously it has more value in the summer when it's 90 degrees out versus when it's 60 in January or whatever.
Right.
When sometimes the water parks aren't even open. So do we think there's a reason behind this? Is that parks are getting a little bit more crowded and Disney wanted to spread it, or that there was enough need to have the two parks over? Is this something, just another thing to try to encourage people to come in the summer, just another kind of small perk? Or why do you think they did this?
So I think the main reason is probably a little bit of safety and a little capacity. They have both parks, they're up and running. If the parks are getting crowded, they don't want to have here's our free offering that we've been promoting, and then also you can't use it because it's crowded, right? So because you got to think, if you show up to get your free perk at the water park, that almost rhymes and it's a tongue twister, and you start you arrive, you go in for a couple hours, you just flew there, you just drove in, and it's crowded, and you're like, ugh, and then you have a negative, sour feeling for the rest of your vacation, oh, this whole week is just going to be lines and crowds. This is terrible, and you start off on the wrong foot. I don't think Disney wants to do that, right? Because once you have one, they might have already had people complaining that it's too crowded or whatever it might be. I think this is just smart, right? It gives people choices. It spreads people out. It looks like they're doing something nice. So it's positive PR. The parks are now open both open for the first time since 2019. And I don't think they can, like I said before, I don't think you can just have a crowded park. They just shove everybody in there because it's just going to be everybody's going to be angry. Because it's literally, I don't know the numbers, but I got to say 70, 80% of the people there have to be taking advantage of this park for the most part, I would think.
Yeah, I would think so.
Or let's say, let's not put a number, but the vast majority of the people that are in there are first day of your vacation people, or the first day of their hotel swap.
Right.
Whatever, right? Disney doesn't want these people starting off their vacation poorly when they could just open up another water park. So I think that's basically the main reason.
No, that makes sense. Does this impact your summer plans when your family goes down? knowing now that the two parks are open?
Now I have to make a decision. That's
Yeah.
that's how it impacts it. We're gonna we were again. If I forget, I think we check in on a Tuesday, so we'll be driving down on a Monday. So on a Sunday, so we arrive on Monday and get an offsite hotel, so we
Yeah.
could be like up, recuperate from the long drive, have a nice night of sleep, and then be like, all right, let's go check in and go right to the water park and spend the whole day there and just kind of like relax, let the kids run around, and we don't have a park ticket, that type of thing. So we're definitely doing that. Because I know I see your next question that here. Would you try to park hop? I am tempted to park hop because I've never been to these water parks before. I would never consider going to them in a normal Disney vacation anyway because it's just extra money, and I'm not paying for like the park hopper plus option that they have. So I'm like, why not take this opportunity to spend like 2 hours in one park, maybe go for lunch back at the hotel, get our bag settled, that sort of thing, and then drive to the other one for like 2 or 3 hours in the evening. It'd be pretty cool if they have one of those like evening event parties on the day that I'm going, but I don't know if they have those during the summer or not.
I forget what the dates are, but that would obviously be an extra cost. But yeah.
Yep. But I would take advantage. I mean, like if it's like, hey, you want to go at night while we're there, I'd potentially buy a ticket for that.
Nice. Yeah. So Scott Gustin did confirm that you can park hop as part of your arrival day perk. It's not only good into one, not the other. So for us, I think, it's good to have the choice because when I'm going with my youngest one, I think we'll be doing Blizzard Beach that has like a preteen area that Typhoon Lagoon doesn't. So I think that park will be a little bit better for her. And then for when my wife's there, we'll kind of either pick one, probably Typhoon Lagoon. I don't know, but we might, depending on how we're feeling, we might park hop because we'll just be coming over from Universal. It's not like we're flying down that day. So we would have time to do like what you said, a couple hours here, a couple hours there. So we'll see how we're feeling though. But more options are better than.
And just to confirm,
last.
Phil and I will not be taking advantage of this when we go in a month.
No, on our arrival day, which is our only day.
Yeah, but I love this perk. I think people are all the cynical people that are like, I haven't been to Disney World since 2019 pre-COVID because Disney's terrible these days, or whatever curmudgeon thing that they've got going on.
Right.
They like to complain on forums or Twitter or whatever. I have a family that are good friends of ours. I booked their trip for Disney World. They got back in They went back in February, a week at the Grand Floridian, and they stayed at Riverside, then the Grand Floridian. So they went to the water parks twice. They absolutely had a blast with this.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of people that are not doing it themselves, or like, we're not water park people, whatever, or they don't have kids, or whatever group they fall under. I think they're really, really missing the boat. Like, this is like saying that this is stupid. I would never take advantage of it. It's there's so many people taking advantage of this that it's like, this is brilliant by Disney. And I think if Disney's not careful, they're going to build up expectations and people are going to want this perk like next year. So, which I don't think they're going to do because it's expensive to operate these water parks basically for free when you're not getting admission. But, my friend was showing me pictures. Like, he's not a big Disney fan. He's always the curmudgeon that's long. I'm pretty sure he has a great time, but he likes to be the curmudgeon. Oh, it's too much money. Your typical dad, the ones that have the T-shirt like, I spent too much money to be here, or whatever it is. He's showing off like the big Chicago dogs that they're at the park, and he's eating food, he's hanging out. I saw a picture of him on the lazy river. He's waving at the camera and stuff like that. So those parks can really make the curmudgeon, look like they're having a good time, right? Because it's a fun water park, right? So
it's hard. It's hard. Unless it's like bad weather or something like that, it's hard not to have any fun at a water park, especially when it doesn't cost you anything extra. So.
And it's super hot outside too, right?
Yeah.
It's not like those indoor water parks that you see in like the Northeast that smell like chlorine. It's just nasty. But I hope Disney keeps this at least, maybe free water parks as a perk for like May through September or something, if you have to limit it or something like that. Because I truly think that Disney might be onto something where this is the first full year that they're doing it. It's gonna reverberate through all like the tell your friend, tell a friend type of thing once people get back from their vacations, because Disney's going to go through a summer and a fall where it's very popular to go down there. These are the busy seasons, and we're just going into the spring break time. More and more people are going to be hearing about this, and I think people might be disappointed when that goes away. So right now, Phil, what do you think? Does Disney keep this perk in 2026?
If I had to say yes or no, I'd say yes. Just because of what you're saying, that I think they found this as something that seems that at least some people value. It doesn't cost them that much because, it's costing them extra now that both water parks are open, but when only one was going to be open anyway, right? And I think if they take it away, it's a bad look, right? It's another perk
Yeah.
you said you gave us, and now you're taking it away. And I mean, unless they're going to replace it with something at least as good, if not better, I think it would be in their best interest to keep it at least for a little while longer.
Do you think it might have a ripple effect with families that are returning? That like we had such a good time going to the water park last year. We're going to plan a second day.
Yeah, I was actually wondering that if Disney has data on that with now, are they selling more or would they next year? Because if you're going for like a long time, like a full week or 10 days or something like that, it's only another like $99 per person to add on that water park more.
Yeah.
And if you enjoy it and you're like, you know what, let's just do that and we'll get a couple more water park days in there or afternoons or something like that, you know, they don't have to sell too many more of those to make this worthwhile, right?
I mean, because I'm just thinking like we're going to go down. Like we have a park ticket for every day that's not our travel day, right? So we have an 8-ticket hopper. We're going to go to the water parks. I'm not ever adding anything with the water parks with never being there before, right? We're there to see rides and eat restaurants and do that type of thing. But if we go down and this thing's awesome, I guarantee you my next trip is, in our rest day, instead of a pool day at the resort where we just kind of sit there, do we have a water park day where we could just kind of relax at the lazy river and let all the, like, because our kids are strong swimmers, so it's not a stressful day for us.
Yeah.
And where we have to watch the kids and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think Disney might be onto something. I'm really curious to see what if their admission goes up or down because of this.
So we'll see. Last bit of news, and I'll try to go through these quick, is because it's Disneyland related, and it was kind of more just, I thought these were kind of neat, and what do we think? Could there be something like this at Walt Disney World? They've announced a whole bunch of stuff related to the 70th. Maybe I'll do them in reverse order. The first thing is they announced 2 new dessert parties coming to California Adventure, one for the new Pixar Palace Celebration and one for the new version of World of Color. And it just got me thinking, do you think there could be any new dessert parties, or specifically, like, what do you think they're going to do with Starlight when it comes to Magic Kingdom? Right now, there is the dessert party for watching Happily Ever After. Do they think they'll just keep that, and that also lets you view Starlight from certain areas?
No, you don't get 2 for 1 at Disney.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm wondering. So are they going to like raise the price? Is it going to be now like, well, you got to leave the area because now the Starlight people have to come into that area, or like, I don't know. I'm really intrigued about all the operations related to how, now that they're going to have the night parade plus the fireworks when the hub's so crowded as it is. And I'm kind of wondering if they're going to try to figure out some way to have a dessert party mixed in with it.
We have to know what the timing of it is and what the parade route is going to be, right? It doesn't make sense if everybody's in the hub watching Happily Ever After and the parade is 20 minutes later or 30 minutes later, that everybody just goes from there. And as people disperse, leave or whatever, and then go set up on a parade route, right? That is an operational nightmare, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't equally distribute people from, Tiana's all the way down through Main Street properly so that everybody's just going to sit there in one place. Or if they're in the roads, like you are down Main Street and everything else, like you have to clear all that space out. So like from an operational point of view, this is absolutely fascinating for me. So I would have to think that it has to be far enough before or after Happily Ever After. It has to be after in the summertime because it's not light enough or dark enough to have a nighttime parade, right? So I think the people will be clear from Tomorrowland Terrace for dessert party, but I don't even know if that's going to have good viewing areas anyway, because you got to look over the water, up a little bit, and then onto like the hub. It's decent for the fireworks, but it's not great for a parade, in my opinion. So I wouldn't know where they would have it to begin with. But there's going to be a tied off viewing area or something, like maybe in the central hub in the green areas where you have the viewing area for the fireworks. Maybe they set up something there. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there's going to be something for sure.
Yeah. And then the other thing was they announced the key to Disneyland, which is a physical key. It's maybe 2 feet long, something like that, a plastic key that has light up things and haptic feedback and stuff like that. And it's part of like a scavenger hunt. They have to go around to the 9 different lands of Disneyland Resort, the Disneyland Park, and go to certain areas. It tells you where to have to go and do something with the key, and it activates the key and it kind of unlocks that part of the key. And when you do all 9 of them, the whole key unlocks, and then you get like prizes that are inside the key, including a collectible pin. So I don't know. Did you see this? What was your
I
thought when you saw this?
I didn't. I saw Key to Disneyland in like my Twitter feed, and I just thought it was like one of those souvenir keys that you
Oh,
bought
okay,
or,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
whatever. And I just kind of disregarded it. I kind of glaze over Disneyland news to begin with,
Yeah.
as it is. And no, I did not know about this. So you're getting my naked reaction right now. I love this idea. I love like a souvenir that you could go around and like the thing that you buy that you wave around actually opens up. That's the only way to get
Yeah.
whatever's inside.
So let me put the link in the what's in the show notes if you want to click the link. I also just put it in our chat, but so you can see the actual physical key.
I'm bringing it up right now. This is awesome. That is a giant key.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay, that looks awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic.
I mean, I haven't seen pricing on it. It could be crazy expensive, but it sounds like a really fun thing to like go around to the different areas and unlock the key and stuff like that. And so my question was, what could they do something similar at Walt Disney World, and what do you think it would be, and when would you buy it?
I think they could absolutely. I mean, this is just Disney's version of like a wand in Harry Potter areas at Universal, right? What could it be? I don't know. It could be anything, right? You can make it a lightsaber and run around Hollywood Studios. You could make it, I don't know, Goofy has a shovel in Magic Kingdom, for lack of better. It could be anything, right?
Yeah.
It could be whatever kind of fancy piece of plastic they want to make. But I would do this, right? We've done like the last 2 Christmases that we did like the Olaf hunt around the World
Yeah, this
Showcase.
reminded me like a more tangible version of those things. Yeah.
And my kids absolutely love their Magic Band Pluses, like running around making them just do things. Like it's like I was talking to friends of ours that same family that went back in February, and we're talking about the Magic Band Pluses, and I'm like, I have my youngest daughter there at every fireworks, Happily Ever After, Fantasmic, and Luminous. She's staring at her Magic Band, watching the colors, going, "Ooh, that's pretty." I'm like, "What? Look up! There's like pyro and music and fountains and things going on, and you're staring at your wrist. What are you doing?" But I think that this would be something else that it lights up. They could chase around things. They love both the haptic of the band and mixing real life with like imagination around the parks. And, one of the things that I want to do is do all those like little hunts and stuff like that at the parks. Like I know there's one at Magic Kingdom now. There's the one at was still DuckTales at Epcot.
Yes. Yeah, still DuckTales there. Yep.
I want to do all those because we've never really had an opportunity to do it because we would forget, but then we would never come back, that sort of thing. Now, if we're free flowing in, maybe we can kind of do something. I would absolutely pay. How much money would I pay? I would pay $200 for my family. So whatever 200 divided by 3. I think that would be it.
I thought you meant like per. I was like, that's a lot.
No. We're buying lightsabers for $200 at Hollywood Studios. No, I think like $60, $50 to $60, depending on how like cheaply it's made or how solid it's made and stuff like that. Like, but what is a Harry Potter wand that you buy?
So I know the new ones are like 85.
But how much are the old ones? So these ones have haptic responses.
Yeah. So the one before those, they varied. They were like 60-ish.
That sounds
50
about
to
right,
60.
right?
Yeah.
Like those are more souvenirs.
I mean, they definitely increased over the time. Yeah, they're similar to that. Yeah.
But the ones from Harry Potter are like souvenirs. Like you keep them.
Exactly.
Whatever.
Yep.
This is like a piece of plastic that opens up to get a prize inside, right? It's more about the experience, not as a souvenir type of thing. So I think $60 on the top end is probably what I would spend at 60, 65. I think that would be worthwhile.
Yep.
My kids would love it.
Cool. And that does it for the news and topics and stuff. Did you have any construction updates? The only thing I saw was the walkway was done in.
So you linked me that one. I only put it because you linked it. If you went to the effort of linking it to me, I'm like, all right, I'll put it.
Well, it's because you like commented. You were like, "There's nothing new," and then, like right when you said that, this came up in my feed. So I'm like, "What do you mean there's nothing?"
So in Liberty Square, there's brickwork on the floor. That's kind of like how they did in Adventureland. They kind of added some flavor there. I think they were putting some of the.
This was just replacing it. I think I don't even think it's anything new. It's just kind of.
But they're fixing up the floors, walkways, whatever.
Yeah, walkways. Yeah.
There's a permit that was filed for the castle in Magic Kingdom for some cranes to kind of get it. Well, not full blown cranes, but like they're going to do something with the castle.
Yeah.
There's speculation that they're going to put lights up there to kind of interact with the new nighttime parade.
Mm-hmm.
That's a rumor. I don't know how substantial it is, but some people are floating that around. Some people are hoping and wishing that means that whatchamacallit, the lights,
The dream lights, yeah.
dream lights, yeah.
If they're going to return for Christmas, yeah.
I doubt it. No, because who wants to add netting and wiring when we have all these other beautiful ways of putting?
Apparently, a lot of
protections
people
and
want that.
Apparently, but apparently, a lot of people want everything that's from their childhood to come back. So, so other news in Animal Kingdom. This is courtesy of DSNY. A lot of land clearing around the Encanto area, tearing down some trees, digging.
So the
earth.
big sign went down today,
and that was my second thing.
Oh, sorry.
The billboard was down. That's courtesy of Disney Geek. They have a blog there. They just show that kind of thing kind of crashing down. So land is being moved. Things are working over there. So I think that's really cool. I'm just curious where they're taking pictures from. You got a pretty good vantage point there. I don't know if they're in the boneyard and they're kind of like climbing up.
Yeah, it might be that, or because I don't think there's like a second floor to Restaurantosaurus or something. I don't know, but yeah, they got some pretty good angles.
Yeah, they did. So that basically Tropical Americas is where it's at right now. I don't know. Did I saw more reports of more shading areas in the Woody's Lunchbox area, and I'm like, I'm not putting that on.
Yeah, I saw something like the first seats I think were open, available under it. I joked that when we go down for our trip down there, that's a must do. Is that we all have to get a photo under the shaded area.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so some of that stuff's going on. I'm not paying attention to that really, so I don't think it's a big deal as it is. All right, so I want to get to. This is a topic I put in our show notes last week, I want to say.
Yep.
We didn't get a chance to get to it. We're at 40 minutes already, so this should probably bring us to the end of the show.
Yeah.
So, what is the Disney bubble? So the community talked about it, and then a lot, which is great. But I have a handful of questions. I'm just going to go through all 5 of these questions. I'm going to lay them out, and then we'll go back to the beginning and kind of go through it. Because I want to kind of tell a story here of what that means. So first question I want to know is what's define what the bubble is what most people would explain it. So what is the most universal explanation of the Disney bubble, right? 30,000 foot view type of thing. So define the. Are we
going one by one, or are you going through all of them?
I'm going to list all of them, and then we'll go back to the top.
Okay.
Right? And then I want to define what the bubble is for you personally, right? Everybody's got their own definition. They have how big or how small it is. People define it themselves also, right? Because there's no wrong answer here. If you're feeling warm and cozy at Disney, that is your bubble, and you are justified for having these opinions, right? How has the bubble changed for you in the last 10 years? Now, this 10 years could be 15 years. It could be 20 years. I just threw in 10 years because it's a nice round number. Is there a bare minimum to the bubble? So that's meaning like if they strip away all this other stuff, is there still a bubble, right? Like what would make the bubble burst essentially? And how's the definition of the bubble changed for you over time? Because it's definitely changed for me. I've got different warm and fuzzies now than when I did back in 2015 and 2017 with my young family at that point. All right, so Phil, how would you define the bubble as just kind of like a broad definition of it?
Yeah, I think as a broad definition, it's the Disney property, the Walt Disney World property, and everything that contains within it, specifically being your housing, where you eat, transportation to the parks themselves, kind of everything that's Disney related, all within that property, and that you can stay within that property and not have to leave it.
So that is a very technical answer,
okay,
which is what I would expect from you. Emotionless Phil. No. So
wait till we get to my personal one. It's even less emotion.
Man, we'll start tearing up then. Absolutely. So I define the bubble the same way. It's everything that's Disney, everything that's on property. But you have to throw another, I guess, underline to that is that it has to make it so you forget the outside world, right? So like the bubble is I go to Disney and we're living in the world of Disney, no pun intended, and I feel warm and cozy and I don't have to worry about like traffic and driving and all the other hassles of your daily grind. It's a vacation, the vacation of the vacation in the vacation type of thing. So that's how we define it. So now, Phil, now that we've just clinically defined it as the places that you can go and what you can do, what does it mean for you personally? What's your personal definition?
Yeah. So the word that came to mind when I was thinking about it for me is the Disney ecosystem and how everything's sort of linked together. Like you stay at a Disney hotel and can use your Magic Band there, and then you can go to the parks and use your Magic Band to charge things and it goes back to your room and all that sort of stuff. You get on a Disney bus or a Disney Skyline or whatever. It's all that ecosystem that all fits together. And that was one thing that stood out to me on our last Down and Back that my family did, where we stayed off property. And it was as close to Animal Kingdom as some of the other hotels are. It was right there. It had a Millennium Falcon themed hotel. Like it was practically a Disney hotel, but it wasn't part of that ecosystem. It didn't have the transportation or the Disney transportation. I couldn't open my room with my Magic Band. I couldn't charge things when I was in the park. So it's all that sort of linking of everything together, feeling like it's all part of that one, system of everything, that it's all Disney and all Disney all the time. And the food is Mickey shaped and like all those types of things where everything feels like it's controlled and linked together is kind of the main element of the bubble for me.
So your bubble doesn't really have any like feels or vibes attached to it. It's mostly the amenities that come along with it.
I think it's that. I mean, I think that gives you the vibes and the feels and stuff like that by not having to go off property and having to get a Marriott card out and stuff like that.
Well, let me ask you this, because you talked about staying off property, and going, and then comparing and contrasting that to like when you stay on property. I haven't stayed off property. I've only stayed off property once in my adulthood, and that's with our weekend trip in 2021, where we went down Labor Day weekend. And we basically stayed at a Disney Springs hotel anyway, so it was almost the same thing. What is how would you define the difference in vibes? Like, does it change your mood? Does it change what you do or how you think or how you approach your day? Like, how does that impact you? Because the vast majority of the day, you're still in the parks, right?
Yeah.
But,
see, and that's what I don't think it changed things that much. That's why it's more those small things to me. It's just that when you get back to your resort, there's not Mickey heads everywhere. And although they did have Mickey waffles and stuff like that even there, but it's like, you just have to like separate yourselves and use a different key system. And it did stand out to me that when I was in the park, I couldn't just charge on my Magic Band and stuff like that. So it's kind of that was an emotional thing, like where it sort of took me out of the moment, where it's like, oh, right, I have to think about this separately, that I'm not the same as when I'm staying on property and stuff like that.
That's what I'm getting at, right?
Yeah.
Because yes to everything you just said, right? To me personally, it's like you live in Disney's invention. Like if you're there to use, you don't use your credit card anymore, you use your Magic Band. You don't use your car anymore, you use their Skyliner, monorail, bus, boat, whatever it is, right? You don't go to McDonald's or Burger King anymore. You go to the quick service locations. You don't go you don't go to like a hole in the wall pool. You go to a nicely themed pool that has decorations and it's nicely painted. And when you go there, to me, it's like, well, the whole duration that you're on property is you're still at the theme parks, right? The Disney bubble means the same feeling that you get walking into the International Gateway and hearing the music in France, or going underneath the train station for the first time of your vacation and walking onto Main Street and hearing that music. It's for me, hearing the Skyliner sounds as you're pulling up on your arrival day and hearing those beeping and announcement sounds that have now ingrained themselves into my head. It's all that interconnectivity, right? Because to me, staying in the bubble means you're taking the warm and fuzzies of the parks and the tails of those feelings. They're not as strong, obviously, but the tails of those feelings go all the way to your hotel door.
Yeah.
Right? And
into your room.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like it goes all the way in, right? So the moment you wake up, you feel like you're taking your first step to get onto Main Street, right? You're taking your first step to walk into the front gates of Epcot, enjoying your day at Epcot, right? Like it's all there. Now, conversely, if you don't have a Disney hotel and you're staying off property, the moment you leave the gate, let's say you're at Magic Kingdom, you get to the TTC, and they have to walk up those miserable little hill and onto the parking lot and get into your car and fight traffic and all this other stuff just to get back to your hotel that has crummy parking, and it's just like you got to find a space, and you're paying $50 a day to park there plus taxes and all the other headaches of real life travel. It's gone. It's gone as soon as you leave the TTC. Literally, the steps of the TTC and go into the parking lot. Like, that you're leaving Disney at that point. You're going back to the quote unquote real world. Yep. To me, that has an emotional impact and a psychological impact, and that's what the bubble means to me personally. It's knowing that I'm still connected to Main Street, right? Like we all love Main Street and the vibes of seeing the castle your first day of your vacation. That's still with me to this day. And I know that I'm part of that when I'm at a Disney hotel versus staying off property. I'm close to Disney. Like this is the perfect way of putting it. When you stay off site and you're out of the bubble, you're staying close to Disney. When you're staying on property, you're in the bubble, you're staying at Disney or in Disney
Mm-hmm.
World, right? And I think that simple phrase kind of explains everything to me personally. The bubble for me is not something that's like a personal thing where I have a personal connection with like family and experiences and that sort of thing. To me, the bubble allows me to relive and build new moments of nostalgia and memories and stuff like that. But those memories are not part of the bubble. But like, it gives me a safe space to create new ones or relive old ones.
Yep.
And that's kind of because the bubble has to do with emotion, I think, right? And it's just I think there's a tie to that, and it's hard to kind of for me to separate the two. But I think if we say like I just mentioned that it gives you space to create those things. I think that for me, I think that's a good way of putting it. So that being said, Phil, you're talking very technically. In the last 10 years, has the bubble changed at all from your point of view, where it's gotten better or worse or anything else like that?
Yep. So we've stayed on property and off property over the last 10, 15 years. So it's not like we only ever stay in the bubble. And we have a great time and feel like it's a Disney trip, even if we're not staying on property and stuff like that. But there are those elements that, when the real world does come in, I think it's easier when you're on property for, I would say keep it outside the berm, but you can have that, totally keeping outside your vacation if when you're getting in the Skyliner and you hear that pre-recording versus getting in an Uber or whatever, and they have whatever radio station they have on or whatever. So I think for me, we used Magical Express sometimes, but it wasn't something we used every time. So I'm not going to say like that going away totally destroyed the bubble for us. On the flip side, I think adding magic bands really increased the feeling of the bubble. I know that might just be a small thing, but just the idea of like, you put them on sometimes even like before you get on the airplane to go down, like it almost like makes your trip start earlier.
Yep.
And the, using that to open your room and then also using it to get into the parks and using it to pay things. So I think that's added to it.
Well, let's because we've talked about this plenty of other times. You can and Disney's done a poor job with this since the pandemic, where they kind of scaled back free magic bands and all this other type of stuff. It used to be 30 days before your vacation, your magic bands and your luggage tags, if you were flying, showed up in your house. And the bubble, to me, always started there, right? Because you did all of your own vacation planning. Maybe you did it, maybe you didn't do it. But you got that box, it opened up, it's a celebration. I mean, it might as well spit out confetti when you open up that box. At least it did for me mentally. It was a very
I hear that.
Magic bands, right? You got your coupons for golf that you never used and all this other type of stuff. Now you get a pamphlet saying, it's 60 days till you book your restaurants. And it's like, that was 10 days ago. You missed the mark on that one, Disney.
Yeah.
Or it's like, your magic bands have arrived. I'm like, yeah, I know. I ordered them and it's 80 days because they just ship them to you, not like it's anything else. Or you get like, hey, your Disney vacation's coming up, and you get like that little pamphlet that you get every single time. I like that, but it's kind of like doesn't have the same impact. So to me, that's how a big portion of how the bubble has changed is that the magic bands, like Disney used to do a very good job of ramping up expectations and excitement for your trip if you bought a Disney package. That's completely gone right now. And so now your vacation starts the moment you get on property, whether it's on an Uber or your car drive down and you park and you go underneath the arches, right? That type of thing. For a lot of people, the bubble changed because of Magical Express going away 5 years ago or 4 years ago. Because the bubble started when they got to the airport, they were able to get rid of their bags and they just put their magic bands on, got on the plane, and when they landed, they got on a bus and there they go. It was part of the attraction at that point because it was unlike traveling anywhere else. Because anybody that has a family that goes in and out of airports with young kids is an absolute nightmare because the dad is wrestling with 6 different suitcases and the mom's wrangling with all the kids or vice versa or whatever it might be. And it's a big hassle, but when you don't have it in the bags, you have to worry about getting them and all this other stuff. It's very relaxing. So to me, the bubble hasn't changed too much, right? It hasn't impacted me because I went from flying a lot to driving. I probably won't ever fly down there again because it's just too expensive. I'd rather drive. And so the Magic Express, I understand why people are upset about it, but so I think it's the biggest one. I think that has changed is the Magical Express and the Magic Bands to me.
Yep. One other thing that I think is different, in some ways it's added to it, in some ways it's taken away from it, is how much more reliant you are on your cell phone. With just having to be on there to book your lightning lanes and checking reservations and stuff like that, which in some ways that adds to it, right? Because you're doing all Disney stuff, and it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
keeping you in the system, and you're booking your lightning lanes ahead of time or in the morning and stuff, or virtual queues when we had them. But also just being on your phone, sometimes it's easier, I think, for the outside world to intrude on that.
Sure.
So I think that can take away a little bit from just sort of leaving everything behind and just enjoying the moment as much. So I think that maybe that's something that's different compared to 10 years ago for us too.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I think you have to be disciplined with your phone
Yeah.
usage, but I think if you had a phone anyway, you're going to be on the phone when you're
Probably,
online regardless,
yeah.
right? So I don't think it's going to have a
It's
major
not
impact
necessarily a
for most
Disney
people.
thing, but that's
I
something
mean,
that's
that could be
changed.
a you thing, yeah, for sure. I kind of like having my phone, but I'm usually always taking pictures and videos of my family, so that's why I have my phone out most of the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
I know people think they were like, you're on your phone way too much. The one thing I do like that Disney did is they got rid of all these 7 a.m. stuff.
Mhm.
There's no more virtual queues. Everything is booked ahead of time unless you want to fiddle faddle with it and refresh or whatever the morning of with your morning coffee, go to it. But you don't have to set that alarm for like 6:55 anymore to kind of go through that like rush to get things done. So I think that just increases the bubble. It decreases the complexity, I think.
Yep.
The next question was, what is the bare minimum for you on the bubble? Which is basically, can you destroy it? What would be like the last straw for destroying the bubble? And somebody in Discord had a really good answer to this, and I think that's my answer now.
Yeah, I'd have to think about that. The first thing that comes to mind though is that because I said ecosystem, you said interconnectivity. I think that's
Yep.
similar. Is that if that's broken, if now it's no longer a Disney hotel, it's a Marriott that took over Port Orleans or whatever, and it's no longer, they don't have the buses or any transportation to take you to the parks, and or you have to pay for that separately or something like that. I think where it becomes less connected would be the big thing that would break it for me.
Somebody in Discord, and forgive me, I do not recall who it was. It might have been Teal Madden, but if I'm giving you credit and it's not you, whoever did come up with the answer, this is now your podcast for that. I'm sorry. It's transportation. I think transportation what keeps everything together, right? Because when I said, because to me, like, how does the bubble burst? Like, I don't think you could burst the bubble. I think even if you just have to crawl into your hotel or whatever, you still have the hotel, you still have the food, you still have the sounds, the music, and the smells, and the memories, and the parks. I don't think you can ever destroy it. But then if you take away the infrastructure, right, the ecosystem that you're talking about, and that's the transportation. Because what did I just say? Like, I feel like I'm taking my first step on Main Street the moment I get out of bed and take a step out that hotel room, right, and I start getting all the resort vibes. But if I had to stop doing that and then hop in my car, or get an Uber, or have to buy a bus pass from Disney and have them punch holes, and like then we have to strategize like, how many bus passes do we need? If we do this way, we can save money. Like, that would completely destroy the bubble at that point. And to me, that utterly destroy a Walt Disney World like vacation at that point. Like then the only true Walt Disney World vacation would be like a monorail resort where you can like, hop on a monorail, because they're never going to get rid of the monorail unless they start charging.
Or like the Crescent Lake, if you can walk to Epcot or something like that, but unless they start charging you to walk or something.
But I think if they got rid of the transportation or started charging for it or started making it a hassle or start taking buses, like it only goes like from like 7 to 9 and then again like later at night or something else like that. It's not like, the true freedom of moving around property is Disney's transportation. And can you imagine having to buy like a lift ticket for the Skyliner like you do like at ski resorts?
Yeah.
That would be disastrous. Like,
I know that comes up every now and then where they're like, oh, they're going to like scan magic bands that you can only use them if you're staying at a resort and stuff like that. And it's just like, I don't want it to get to that. Like, where it's like, just keep it like it's not really a city, but it's like a community or something like that. It has transportation and you can use it to get around and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think for sure that it could burst with the transportation. Like, you could take away some of the amenities. You could take away, I don't know. They've been taking away a lot of amenities.
Yeah.
And they're slowly coming back, but that still hasn't burst a bubble for me, honestly. I mean, I know what I'm getting into when I pay it, right? Pay the entry fee, right? When I pay
Exactly,
bill,
yeah.
I know how much I'm paying. Once I'm over that, I can enjoy myself at that point. So, Phil, has the definition of the bubble changed for you over time? Now, kind of going through this, my answer has kind of changed in my head. But has the definition of the bubble changed for you over time at all?
Like I said, I think the introduction of the magic bands changed things a little bit for me and made it. And I guess now once I compared to when I was a kid, now that I'm paying the bills, it feels a little different, like how everything's all grouped together.
Yeah.
Nor as a kid, like we stayed on property sometimes, but a lot of times we didn't. I don't know if I really felt the bubble when I was a kid. It was just exciting to be at
I
Disney
never stayed
and
on
stuff.
property until I was an adult.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I think as I've gotten older and I've had kids and I'm paying the bills, it definitely feels different when you're on property versus off. So I guess it's like kind of become more important. I think we've stayed on property more of late, despite, our last trip notwithstanding, because I think we value that a little bit more versus just being in the area. I don't know. I don't think it's changed too much though.
So when I was originally asking this question in my head to write it down, I was more asking to myself, how has a Disney vacation felt to me? How does a Disney vacation feel now versus what it felt like 10 years ago? Right. So when the first time I ever was introduced to the Disney bubble was in 2015. It was the first time I stayed on property for a duration with a family vacation as an adult. And I had always associated the Disney bubble with what is the vibe, what is the feel, what is the happiness factor of me. How do I get excited going to the parks? Right. To me, that was the definition of the bubble, because I'm here, I'm having the vacation, having all these fun things. Right.
Yep.
And honestly, going through this conversation, the bubble is more. I think how you've kind of described it, like in a sterile checklist type of way. I don't want to use the word sterile; that's kind of mean. But how you've kind of just like you itemized it, like this is what it is, this is what it allows me to do, this is all the things. I fell into the trap of assigning emotions to that, right? Like, how has the bubble changed for me over time? The bubble hasn't really changed for me over time, but the way I have a vacation at Disney World has changed for me over time. And I associated that with a change of the bubble. But the bubble is basically enables you to have a vacation. It's not the vacation in itself. So I did something where I fell into the trap a lot of people I criticize on the internet, where they get too emotionally tied into one thing, and where they get tied up like, oh, Rivers of America is going away, I can never have another Disney vacation again.
Yeah.
Type of remark. To me, I did not separate the technical with the feelings, where Rivers of America might go away and you might have some memories. I think it's who was it? Mama of Six said that she said goodbye to like the rocking chairs and the checkerboard.
Yep.
Was that her on Discord?
It was.
And I understand the emotional ties to that, and it is sad and everything else like that. And so you have memories just tied to that. However, she will still continue to go to Disney. She will still continue to build memories and finally remember it, and kind of build new ones as she gets older and has more vacations and keeps on going. And that's the definition of the bubble, I think, is a good point. It's an area which allows you to have new memories. And it's not, I'm having a therapy session right now. So I'm learning things about myself as we talk through this. But I think that's it. So I didn't read. I glanced through a lot of these, but I didn't overly analyze these things, Phil. That the community came together. Phil, do you want to take turns going back and forth?
Sure.
How do you want to handle this one?
Yeah. Why don't we do that? Just because there's a lot, and I think maybe we try to highlight what unique things people had to say, because I'm sure there's a lot of repetitive thoughts for some of them at least. So yeah, I mean, I can start with a Mets fan said that he thinks that the Disney bubble is from the area visitors are staying, so it could be on property or off towards the Disney property. For example, a family will eat around their hotel as long as it's on the way to or from the parks or Disney Springs. So that's a little bit more broad than maybe we were saying. Yeah. He still doesn't think people would drive to Universal with the traffic, blah, blah, blah. For me, let's see. I think the reason why Disney is looking at Magical Express again is causing getting from airport is a big expense, which pushes costs higher. Also, a lot of returning guests when it was free, and that is off-putting. Next person.
He's a local because he lives in South Florida. Yeah. He kind of gets the same thing. He says, I could drive right from home to the hotel, which is kind of like what I do, but his drive is a couple hours. Maybe mine is, 15 to 20. But once he gets there, he takes Disney transportation, right? There's that transportation, message right there. I think that's important.
Yeah, that's true. Even if it's not your whole trip, it's still during the day you're using that. The next person asked us not to use their their name, and they were a Disneyland person. And it's an interesting thinking about Disneyland and this might actually highlight some of what makes the bubble at Walt Disney World, because it's different at Disneyland. For them, it's only when you're inside the berms, when there's no sight lines to the outside world, because at Disneyland the outside world is like right there. For them, the bubble is like between security points in downtown Disney, from one side to the other, and then when you're in the two parks, that's it. It's not, because a lot of the hotels are off property and you have to walk down like a regular public street and sometimes see homeless people and stuff like that. So it's it's like, where they live, they feel like they don't always have as much safety as they can when they're within the security zone within at Disney. So I think that's an interesting case, to kind of compare how it's probably a little bit more narrow of scope when you're at Disneyland versus Walt Disney World.
Yeah, and he talks about how the bubble has changed over the last 10 years and what's the bare minimum, that sort of thing. It all has to do with the sense of safety. You don't have to worry about everyday, fears of, you got to make sure you look both ways when you cross the street, and there's no one harassing you. There's no potential for theft or car accidents or all this other stuff. Like, you get there, you're safe, and you can use all that extra mental bandwidth that you usually have about, everyday life goes away, and you can just enjoy yourself. And I think that's a huge part of the bubble, no matter which coast that you go to on Disney. Teal Madden had one where he defines the bubble I think everybody's defining the bubble basically the same way, right? It's just the ecosystem of Disney World, as you pronounced it. And for him, the bubble is us, is when they're there, you don't have to worry about the outside world. And I think, again, that's a common denominator. You're there, and you can forget about your keys. Potentially, you don't need your wallet. Maybe you need your ID to get an adult beverage, but like you don't need your credit cards. You don't need you do need your cell phone unless you're really going technology free. But like you can leave all the outside stuff. He's never considered the magic system part of the bubble, but he empathizes with people that have burst for with them. Maybe it was Teal Madden. Was I correct on that? Yeah, I guess it was. He's the one that talked about park transport. This is where I to in his post here. It changed for him over because he's staying on site less, or a bubble extends to our hotel, even though we have to drive to the parks. So here's a good example. And I guess this more leans to some of what you were getting at, because you've mixed offsite and onsite interchangeably over the years. As he's shifted to mostly offsite all the time, that maybe sometimes you just have to expand your bubble yourself and have that become the new norm, which is, I appreciate the people that are able to do that.
Yep.
You want to do Mama of Six?
Sure. Mama of Six said the Disney bubble is anything past the Welcome to Walt Disney World sign. I think Teal Madden mentioned that too. I'm sure for a lot of people that is kind of that moment. I know on our last trip, even though we were staying off property, we went through Disney property to get there. So we did go under that sign to get there. We then went to past the See You Real Soon one. And to them says the bubble means having left my worries behind and don't have to think about real life for a while. And although she mentions what can cause the bubble to burst is rude guests or unkind cast members. Feeling manners have gotten worse the last few years. She's currently down there or just finishing up a solo trip. So she mentioned she was seeing more grumpy cast members and stuff like that, but is trying to highlight the cast that are doing a good job. So I think that's something too. You kind of expect things to be, if not perfect, at least magical, I guess, when you're at Walt Disney World. And when you see elements of that aren't, whether it's from cast members or more often than not, probably other guests, that can kind of make you feel like the bubble is bursting a little bit too, even though you're still technically within it.
So Lumpy had some really good points. I mean, he agrees with how the bubble is for him personally. It's kind of the all-inclusive, like, forget the outside world type thing. One thing that no one's really brought up that he mentioned was how the bubble has changed over the last 10 years. It's all the nickel and diming stuff that Disney has, started paying for all those perks that you used to get for free. Phil, you've read my manifesto. I put a dollar value on all those type of things. Hopefully I get that out soon. Working with Ryan W. to get some visuals up there and going. And I've been working too hard in real life. I haven't been able to kind of get all that stuff done.
Stupid work on the way.
Yes. Thanks to Ryan. When Ryan is done putting all these graphs together for me, this will be his podcast for at least several weeks for all the hard work he's done. He's been awesome. He also mentioned was the bare minimum for the bubble. Can it be burst? And he mentioned like it could be burst on a whim, like when he gets an outside work call or something else like that, and it bursts.
I think that might be what Mama 6 was saying too. Like in that moment, it bursts for that moment when you see somebody rude or something like that. But for him, he's saying, yeah, that for a moment it bursts when he gets that outside call.
Yeah, and I've taken outside calls at when I've been on adult trips. It hasn't really burst my bubble. I just tell that person, I'm on vacation. I don't know why you're talking to me. But I had to pick up because they were good friends at work. And speaking of Ryan W., he's the last one here to respond. Just being on property. The bubble is his staying on property, and really Hans is doing all the other stuff. He's the first one that brought up the dining plan, the all-inclusive feel, which I think is a big element of the bubble, if that's something that people do. I know almost every single vacation trip, Disney family trip that I've taken outside the last 2, we've been on the dining plan, and we're going to be on it this year, so I'm excited to see how that kind of feels, even though we're going to think about getting a lot of table service, so my wallet's not going to be it's going to be bursting the opposite direction of that one. He says it's definitely shrunk over the last 10 years. And he's talking about like all the different perks and stuff like that, where you either don't have it anymore, you have to pay for it. And that's basically it. So like, I think a couple good points that a lot of people brought up outside of something like what it means for them personally, but like the nickel and diming, the dining plan is a good one that we didn't bring up. But what that just goes to show me that the bubble is the same for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And Disney would be good to make sure that they never changed some of these core tenets of the Disney bubble, even though they're trying to use the Disney bubble as one of their own terms now, but at least they recognize that was a fan-made kind of institution.
Yeah. And hopefully they realize that it's all those things being inclusive and in part of the ecosystem that matters, not just that things are getting more expensive. It feels like maybe one of the things Disney was trying to do is, well, let's try to keep the base cost as low as possible, and we'll separate out some of these costs.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of helps erode the bubble a little bit when you have to add on all these extra things where, yes, it's more expensive each year, but we know what's included and everything. You get more from your Disney trip than at other places. So whether it's the luggage transfer, whether it's keeping both water parks up, whatever it is, hopefully they're realizing that giving more value and including that versus having these separate costs really adds to the bubble.
Yeah, no, I think it was a good discussion. Appreciate everybody for dropping their thoughts into that one. It helps us really kind of validate our opinions that we're just not two middle-aged guys on podcasts every week here, that type of thing. Next week's DBC engagement is we've had this one loaded up for the last 2 weeks. I want to see how responsive people are to this, because this could be a complicated one. This could be really easy. I was trying to think of like a list, so just list this out. You don't have to write like a detailed plan or anything else like that. This is basically like a top 5. Just list these things out here. It's just, if you had to create a local Disney theme park near you, what are 3 attractions, 1 sit-down restaurant, and 2 quick service restaurants you choose to build your park? What is the theme, and how is the park laid out? Now, you don't have to talk about how the park's laid out and do whatever that, but if you want, it's like, I'm thinking like, I take 2 of these in this restaurant and kind of put it over here in this theme, and 2 this attraction and this quick service over here in this theme. And the theme of the park is like, I don't know, rainforest or whatever it might be, right? Like, that's it. Like, I'm not asking everybody to write a book. So I think this is going to be kind of interesting, see how creative everybody can get. We'll talk about our ideas next week. But Phil, before we go, anything else that I might have forgotten to mention?
Nope. Just continue to follow us on social media everywhere at the DBC Pod. And if you're not already on Discord, please join. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Like, we had some new members.
Click the button, and then in comments, just write the word comment and hit enter, right? It helps the algorithm, helps get our show out. We really appreciate it. That being said, everybody, thanks for watching and listening this week. And we'll see you.
Take care, everyone.